You wake before the sun, and the first thing you feel is hunger. Not the small hunger that a handful of berries fixes, the deep kind. The kind that has followed your people across every valley and ridge for as long as anyone can remember. You are a hunter, a gatherer. You belong to the land in the way a bird belongs to the sky, which is to say, you own none of it, and you move through all of it. This is the only life you know. It is the only life anyone has ever known.
For more than 200,000 years, every human who came before you lived exactly like this. They walked, they followed the herds when the herds moved, they found the wild grasses when the grasses ripened, and when the food ran thin in one place, they packed up everything they owned, which was almost nothing, and they left. Your home is wherever you happen to be standing. Your calendar is written in animal tracks and the color of the sky. You are good at this. Your eyes can spot a deer frozen in a thicket from 100 paces. Your hands know which roots feed you and which roots kill you. You can read a riverbank like a story, and still, some winters, the story ends badly. Some winters, a child in your group simply does not wake up. You have buried more people than you can comfortably count, and you have never once questioned whether the world could be any other way. Today, that is about to change, though you will not notice it happening. It begins with something small, something almost too small to see. Last autumn, your group camped here, in this same wide bowl of land between the hills. You gathered the wild wheat that grows along the slope, the way your people always do, snapping the heavy heads off the stalks and carrying them back in bundles. Grain spilled. Grain always spills. A scattering of seeds fell near the edge of your old camp, pressed into the dirt by your own feet, and you thought nothing of it, because there was nothing to think. Now it is a new season, and you have wandered back to this familiar place, and you stop because the spilled grain has done something. Right there, in the exact spot where the seeds fell, a thick patch of young wheat is rising out of the ground, taller and greener than the wild stalks on the hill, crowded together, easy to reach. It is as if the land set a small table and left it waiting for you. You stand and look at it for a long time.
A thought arrives. It is not a grand thought. It doesn't feel like a doorway swinging open. It feels more like a shrug. The seeds fell and food grew. So what would happen, you wonder, if you put the seeds there on purpose? That question is the seed of everything. Every city that will ever exist. Every king, every war, every cathedral and skyscraper and traffic jam. All of it begins as a small, lazy, almost careless idea in the mind of one tired forager who simply does not want to walk so far for breakfast. So you try it. You take a handful of grain from the bundle meant for eating, which feels reckless because food you bury is food you cannot chew. You press the seeds into the soft ground near the water, and then you do the strangest thing your ancestors never had to do. You wait. This is the part that breaks the old world. Waiting. A hunter does not wait. A hunter follows. But a farmer plants something he cannot eat today and stakes his future on a tomorrow he has to stay alive to see. To wait for the grain, you have to stay. And so, for the first time, you do not pack up and leave when the season turns. You build something sturdier than a temporary shelter because you are going to be here a while. The grain comes up, you harvest it, and there is more of it in one tight patch than you could have gathered in a week of wandering the wild slopes. You plant again, more this time. You start pulling out the other plants that crowd your wheat, the ones you do not want, so your plants get the water and the light. You notice that the fattest seeds make the strongest stalks, so you save those to plant and eat the rest. Without ever deciding to, you have begun reshaping a wild plant into a tame one, bending an entire species to fit your hand. Other people see what you are doing, up and down the river, in valleys you will never visit. Other tired foragers are stopping at their own spilled grain, having their own small lazy thought. Goats and sheep drift close to the easy food around the settlements, and someone decides not to hunt them, but to keep them, to pen them, to let them breed.
The herd that once led you across the land now lives inside your fence. Within a few short generations, the bowl of land between the hills is not a campsite anymore. It is a village.
There are walls now, real ones, made to last. There are storage pits packed with grain, more food than your group has ever held in one place. And here is where the strangeness deepens, because that surplus, that beautiful overflowing pile of grain, changes the shape of a human life in ways no one asked for, and no one can stop. A full storehouse means you no longer need every single person out finding food. So some people start doing other things. One of them gets very good at shaping clay into pots. One of them gets very good at chipping stone into blades. One of them gets very good at remembering, at counting, at deciding who gets what. Your village grows specialists, and specialists need someone to feed them. And so the grain becomes the thing that holds the whole arrangement together. The grain becomes wealth, and wealth, for the first time in the human story, can be hoarded.
You could not hoard a deer. It rots in days. But grain sits in a pit and keeps. The person who controls the full pit controls the hungry mouths around it, and slowly, quietly, the flat world of the hunting band tilts. Some families have more, some have less. Some people begin to give orders, and some people begin to take them. The idea of a chief, a big man, a king, grows straight out of the storehouse, like wheat from spilled seed. And it costs you. It costs you more than you know.
As a hunter, you worked hard in short bursts and rested often. As a farmer, you bend over the same field from dawn to dusk, your back aching, your hands cracking, grinding grain between two stones until your joints wear down. Your bones will tell the story to people thousands of years from now. They will dig you up and measure you and find that you, the farmer, are shorter than your hunting grandparents, with worse teeth and more disease.
The disease is new, too. You live crowded together now, with your animals beside you and your waste nearby, and sickness leaps from the herd into your body and spreads through the packed village like fire through dry grass. The cattle give you their plagues. The grain pile draws the rats. You traded the wide, clean emptiness of the old life for walls, and the walls keep the sickness in with you. And your diet, which once held 100 wild plants and the meat of the hunt, narrows down to bread and bread and bread. By every measure that an individual body would care about, you have made your own life harder. So why does no one go back?
Because you cannot. That is the trap, and it is a beautiful, terrible one. The farming worked too well in the one way that overrides all the others. It made more food, which made more babies, which made more mouths, which needed more food, which needed more farming. Your village has 10 times the people the wild land could ever have fed. Walk away from the fields now, and most of them starve. The door you opened with a careless thought has locked itself behind you. You are not chained to the land. The numbers are, and the numbers do not let go.
So the village becomes a town, the town becomes a city. The first cities rise on the backs of the first farmers in the river valleys where the grain grows thickest. And inside those cities, everything we call civilization comes pouring out in a rush. Someone needs to track who owns which sacks of grain, so they press marks into clay, and writing is born from a tax record. Someone needs to know when the river will flood the fields, so they watch the sky and count the days, and the calendar and the first science are born from the harvest. Armies form to protect the grain and to seize someone else's. Temples rise to thank the gods for the grain. Laws are carved to settle who keeps the grain.
Every empire that will ever stretch across a map is, underneath all its glory, a system for moving grain from the people who grow it to the people who rule it. And it all traces back, past the kings, past the cities, past the walls, all the way back to a single ordinary morning and a single tired person standing in front of a patch of accidental wheat, having a thought too small to feel important. You will not remember this day. No one will write it down because no one yet knows how to write. There is no monument, no anniversary, no story told around the fire about the morning the world turned. The day everything changed past
passed completely unmarked, buried under the ordinary business of getting through one more season alive. But here you are, all these thousands of years later, reading these very words, living in a city the spilled grain built, eating bread descended from that first tamed wheat, carrying in your body the height and the teeth and the immune system that day handed down to you. You did not choose the farming life. A forager chose it for you by accident, by laziness, by a shrug in front of a green patch of wheat. And every human who has lived since has lived inside the choice. That is the day everything changed. The day a hunter stopped following the food and decided just once to make it wait for him. This is the day everything changed.